Hi, my name's Louise Patel and I'd like to share some information with you about graphs and data. Not everyone is comfortable or familiar when they're working with graphs or data. When you look at a graph, you want to ask yourself, what's this telling me? Is there a story behind it? You want to make sense of the picture up there. Graphs express data visually. So let's start with a few pieces of important information first. What sort of graph is it? Is it a bar graph or is it a trend or a line graph? That gives me a story over a certain period of time. Look at the title of the graph. This will also give you more information. You look at the x-axis and the y-axis and the labels there, and then you look at the legend over on the right-hand side. So actually, let's have a look at a graph now. So the graph we're looking at has the title of The Trend of Resident Aboriginal Clients with Type 2 Diabetes whose HbA1c measurements are within certain levels by reporting year. So that's really, we're looking at diabetics and their HbA1cs and how they've travelled over a period of time. When we look at the axis along the bottom, the X, it's a time frame from 2015 to 2020. When we look down the left-hand side, it's giving us 10% increments from 0% up to 50%. And this is the proportion of diabetics and their HbA1cs. Over on the right-hand side is the legend. And here we have 4 different groups. We have diabetics with an HbA1c of greater than 10. We have diabetics with an HbA1c of greater than or equal to 8 and between less than 10. We have clients with diabetes with an HbA1c that's greater than 7% and less than or equal to 8. And then we have clients with an HbA1c of less than or equal to 7%. So we've got 4 different stories here. So let's look at the graph itself. If we look at the green line, this represents diabetics with an HbA1c of less than or equal to 7. So in 2015 it started at 34%. It increased and stabilised over 4 years, 5 years, and then in 2020 it dropped down to 30%. So there was a drop of 6%. That's where you ask, what's happening here? If we look at the next line, which is our clients with diabetes with an HbA1c of greater than 10%, we see in 2015 it was 27%. It decreased slightly. In 2019 it was 24%. But then from 2019 to 2020, it increased by 6%, also up to 30%. Again, you ask the question, what's happening here? The 2 lines below, as we can see, stay fairly stable from 2015 up to 2020. So when you do data interpretation and analysis, you really need certain people in the room to help you unpack the data and make sense of it. You need clinical experts in the room, and these are your health centre staff, the Aboriginal health practitioner, the GP and the RAN. Get them into the room so that they know what's going on. You need people there who can put this information, this data, into local context. They know the community, they know the health centre. And you also need a CQI facilitator or a person who has experience and works with data and graphs and who can facilitate the conversation, find out what's going on. So, if we were to look at these graphs and we saw certain decreases and increases in measurements, you might want to ask questions and discuss why have these changes taken place over the years? Why do you think the HbA1c greater than 10 increased? Was there an increase of population? Was there more measuring? Has the population moved from town out to the community or vice versa? What's food security like? Are there issues with the local store and the food supplies? Were there new medications that were being used, or were new medications not having the effect that it needed to have? Had more young people being diagnosed with diabetes in the population, or is it the effect of COVID-19? So these are just some of the questions that will generate discussion with your team. In conclusion, we want you to use this data to tell a story so that everybody understands. Ask the questions to get the answers. Celebrate where you're doing well, where your strengths are being seen in the health centre and the work that you do. Use this data as evidence of where there might be gaps or weaknesses in service, delivery or healthcare, and importantly, use this data to drive and inform change. Use it to deliver high quality care and services to your clients. The next step would be to use the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, the PDSA. That's where you will generate improvements. Where your concerns from the data occur, use the PDSA.